Welcome to the Patriot Barbie podcast. I am so excited today to give big thanks to my new title sponsor, Dr. Stephen Soloway. He's the author of Bad Medicine, and he has proudly stepped up to sponsor the Patriot Barbie podcast, as well as Celtic Plastics. They specialize in Sentry water systems, which is water filter systems for your home that filter out fluoride, bacteria, COVID, all the nasty crap the government's trying to put in our water. So go to patriotbarbie.com to check out my sponsors. Thank you guys so much. Welcome to the Patriot Barbie podcast. I'm your host, Lindsey Graham, author and conservative activist. I love Jesus. I love America. I'm a proud wife, mom of 3, and I'm having bold and witty conversations with America's patriots, the ones that cancel culture desperately want to blacklist. Trust me, I've been there. In 2020, I defied government lockdowns in Oregon, reopened my salon, and became an icon of freedom. I've been targeted by government and raging liberals every day since, and I refuse to back down. Patriots, I'm here to tell you, your values are worth fighting for. The Patriot Barbie podcast starts now. Hey guys, welcome to the Patriot Barbie podcast. Today I have a guest that is sure to make you emotional, I would imagine. This is a topic that is so very, very near and dear to my heart. I've been very, very public about an abortion that I had when I was, I believe, 21, trying to forget, and why it just furthered my pro-life movement and my voice in the pro-life community. And the harm that it does to women and families, and you know what it's doing all over America right now. So this is a tender topic. It's a very fiery topic, but it is not a topic I'm afraid to touch. And I'm super excited because today I have Tracy Robinson. She's a San Diego-based. It was in the film and video industry for over a decade, mostly as a video editor. And several years ago, she heard the case against abortion for the first time and was immediately inspired to make her first feature film, The Matter of Life. With a combination of donations and her own funds, the production finally came into fruition. Knowing that 4 in 10 women who have had abortions also attended church in the month they became pregnant, the mission is to reach a Christian audience. So we're going to talk today about Tracy's movement, the movie, The Matter of Life, and all the things abortion related, good and bad, with Tracy Robinson. Welcome to my show.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. So are you in California right now?
I'm in San Diego.
Okay. So we're on the same time zone.
I think we're an hour difference.
Oh, are we? Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Arizona's weird. They're the anomaly. We change our time when nobody else does. And so I'm always like, I don't know if we're Mountain or Pacific.
I wish we had it that way.
I know. I wish actually they didn't change time at all. And it would just be like, nothing to remember. I don't care if it gets dark early or dark late, whatever. So I'm really excited to hear about this movie. It's coming out on DVD soon. I was not able to see it in theaters when it was released in May. And I want to know, the first thing I really want to know that stuck out was when you said you heard the case against abortion for the first time. This is a topic that I am surrounded with at all times. And I am under the impression that people talk about this, but maybe they don't. So at the time that you heard, quote, the case against abortion, what were you doing? What was your stance on abortion? I mean, religious, morality, either way. What's the backstory there?
Yeah, it was about 6 years ago. In 2016, I was doing videos for a pregnancy resource center in California. And I was probably a Christian for about 8-9 years at that point. But my worldview really wasn't shaped. I was not interested in politics, that kind of thing. And but I was really, and I had no real opinion about abortion other than being really in the mushy middle. I think my opinion was pretty shaped by the culture at that point. I had grown up in public school, even grown up in church, and the topic had just never been presented to me clearly. And my parents never talked about hard things like that. So, but I was really inspired when I started doing these videos for this pregnancy resource center. I was commissioned on and off to just showcase the ministry and what they were doing to help women. And
So were
I had never
they
heard of
were
a
a
pregnancy
resource
center
center that
before. A friend of mine had asked me to start doing videos there. Um, so I was touched by just the love and the care that came out of that center, and the stories of women choosing life for their babies, and even met a lot of people that had had abortions in their past that regretted it, and now they're healing, and or they're healed, and they are now serving women in crisis. So that was the first intro into the pro-life movement, and just to start thinking about pro-life. Um, and I was still pretty much in the middle, until my friends at the pregnancy center invited me to an apologetics conference, and the topic was the case against abortion. And I thought, well, I'll go and check it out and see what my pro-life friends are talking about. And in less than 2 hours, the speaker, Alan Schleman of Stand to Reason, he gave a clear, concise argument for the full humanity of the unborn child. And that's where my mind was completely changed. I saw the reality of what abortion really is and does. And he invited us to look at fetal imagery, at abortion aftermath imagery, and just the reality really dawned on me, and so did this vision for a documentary film. I like to say that it was downloaded to me in that moment. Like, this needed to be a film, showcasing the science of embryology and everything, because I knew that there were so many people in my shoes who had just never been invited to think that deeply about this topic. And which is causing so much trouble and problems and crisis in our culture, in our society. It's causing death and destruction. And so, but I had all these questions. I had no idea about Roe v. Wade, didn't know the truth behind Planned Parenthood. I was wondering, has it always been this contentious in our culture? Like, he didn't talk about that kind of stuff. So I went on this research journey, reading books, watching YouTube, discovering this amazing pro-life movement with all these speakers and all these stories and organizations helping women. And so I just wanted to take other people on that journey with me.
when you say the mushy middle, I would love to really unpack that and like
Hmm.
distinctively figure out what did the mushy middle mean to you? Because I think of the mushy middle, when I hear that, I hear a lot of the same arguments that kind of the left makes right now for the same exact two arguments, ectopic pregnancies and rape victims. And those are their two go-tos. And those are, very, very contentious issues and very hostile and polarized issues. But
Hmm.
what did the mushy middle mean for you? And how old were you in 2016?
I think I was 27, at that moment. So, um, the mushy middle, and as far as ectopic pregnancy, that's a tubal pregnancy where you have to remove the 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 tiny little baby, unfortunately, to save the life of the mother. Otherwise, both lives are lost. So I mean, truthfully, that is not considered the same as abortion. So a lot of people will use that as an excuse to justify the 99% of abortions, and the same with rape. When a Christian especially says that they make exceptions for rape, as much as we hate that circumstance and we never wish it on anyone, and it's just the worst possible, just experience that anybody can go through. Um, that is still a life, and we have to protect that woman's son or daughter, from the injustice of that crime. The baby did not deserve to, uh, the punishment for the perpetrator's crime. And why should we inflict two traumas on a woman? And the abortion doesn't erase what happened to her. And again, we're not condoning rape at all. In fact, I believe that rapists should be severely more punished than they are currently now. Um, I believe they should have the death penalty.
Castrated. I
That's
say
an
castrated.
atrocity. Hmm. They should be castrated and killed. Like that's just I just think it's just the
She went
worst
killed.
crime
I went castrated.
you could inflict on somebody. Um, so but as far as the mushy middle is concerned, I would say that, in other words, I was personally pro-life, but who am I to enforce my beliefs onto other people? That's what my point of view was, my very basic understanding of abortion. So, yeah, I would say that in my Christian convictions, I thought, well, I would personally never have an abortion, but who am I to take that right away from other people? Or I can't imagine it ever being illegal, that kind of a thing.
Right. That's interesting because I love that. And now I'm really glad that I asked that question because my idea of the mushy middle is not that. It's very different. Not that there's a right or wrong mushy middle, but my my mushy middle would be that someone believes abortion is wrong, up until a certain point or only for these circumstances, or, that to me is the mushy middle. So that's an interesting perspective that you're like, well, my mushy middle is I would never do it, but I think everyone else should be able to do it. So was that really like your belief was, I think other women have the right to have an abortion should they choose?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, because of the question surrounding abortion that is very valid in our society, we question, shouldn't she have the rights? Shouldn't she have that bodily autonomy? Um, shouldn't she isn't it safer for her to have legal abortion access versus back alley abortions? These kinds of things. Those are the reasons why probably I was in the mushy middle, that I never could imagine it being illegal, didn't want to take that right away from others. It's because I had all these concerns that a lot of people have. Um, so I would say
So
that
would you
factored in.
Okay. Would you say that now your belief system is no matter what situation, uh, the baby's life is to be preserved regardless? So rape
Yeah.
victims, and you're right, ectopic
Mhm.
pregnancy it's a joke that the left tries to talk about that because that's a medical emergency. It's literally not an abortion, and that's what they're trying to claim. But rape cases, what about, like, and I'm asking the hard questions here, not because I believe in these questions, but
Mhm.
I love to find out what your answer would be as an activist, because I get these questions online all the time. What about the 13-year-old girl that, was raped by her stepfather that may not even survive a pregnancy? Like, how do you respond to that?
Well, I think the first and foremost thing that doctors are sworn to is the preservation and the protection of life. And so, and I think that we all, as Christians, as believers, as people that are, as human beings that believe in uh, just the value, intrinsic value of life, we need to look at every situation and see how we can protect both lives. Um, and um, with without the I mean, with the exception of, if that mother is going to die, um, we have the moral obligation to save her. Otherwise, both will die. Like we just mentioned with the ectopic pregnancy. But in all other cases, we need to be about the saving and preserving and protecting of life. That this is a human rights issue. We interviewed a doctor that was in the film, and he was a former abortionist. And before he became pro-life, he entered into a crisis in his life that eventually was instrumental in changing his heart and mind. And part of his story is that he and his wife adopted a baby from a pregnancy of a 13-year-old. And his story is actually so powerful, and what happened um, in his family, and what he did what happened to him to make him stop doing abortions. But we also interview a woman who was 15 when she was raped, or I believe she was 14. And it was high school. She was a virgin. It happened in school. And it was just an extremely traumatic event. Her parents, her father was trying to force her to get an abortion. She stood up to him and she walked out of the car. She said, "Stop the car," on their way to the abortion appointment. And so there's just these really awful circumstances that people find themselves in. But the point of the film is to show people that God can really redeem any circumstance and turn it into good. And also, the circumstances surrounding that pregnancy, they're, while tragic, while heartbreaking, they are not greater than the life itself. And who are we to say that that life cannot be a redemptive, just story in and of itself?
Right. I agree. Praise the Lord, by the way, for that girl that jumped out of the car. That's amazing. Do you guys have
She said, "Stop the car." Her dad left the walked out of the car and walked home. Hmm.
oh, oh, that's so funny.
Hmm.
Hi. Do you guys
Hmm.
have follow-up footage of, like, I don't know how long ago that was, whatever happened to the child, or
Yeah.
is the baby
Well,
grown?
another beautiful layer of that story is that she chose life, and as a teenager, she chose life, and she decided to give her daughter in an open adoption, and she found a couple that met all her parameters, and they couldn't have children, um, and they gave this baby a wonderful life, and now she's still in relationship with her daughter. Her daughter now has a daughter, and it was just a beautiful picture of what we do when we protect life, what can happen when we choose love.
Right. So, would you say that the Matter of Life, the documentary, does it follow um, different stories of women that have had abortions, women that chose not to have abortions, as well as kind of the science, or
Hmm.
what can we expect to see from, like, the entirety of the movie?
Hmm. Well, the documentary kind of covers the whole gamut of the pro-life message, the basic pro-life case. I wanted to unravel the science of embryology, the history of how we got to this point, and um, the philosophy of why we believe, why we believe in protecting human rights, but also just showcasing the work of pregnancy resource centers, of life-giving organizations in the pro-life movement. um, I wanted to address common concerns that people had, like, it's her body, shouldn't it be her choice, and what if she's raped, this kind of thing. And um, I uh, I just wanted to do it in a way that was not condemning to the other side. So, and as far as people's personal stories, we show people who have chosen life for their babies. We recount the events that they were in, these really troubling circumstances, and not knowing what to do and feeling the pressure of the world. And then, um, but then they get embraced by a loving family member, or they visit a pregnancy center, they see the ultrasound, just the ways that led them to be informed, to be loved, and to choose life for their son and daughter.
I think that's beautiful. I'm sure that I will cry when I watch it. When you
Yeah,
said
bring
that you,
tissues.
yeah, when you said that you wanted to look into the history of how we got here, I feel like that history was and is continues to be a slippery slope where the government gets to redefine what is a baby, when does life start, things like that. And as Christians, we know that life starts at conception. And what did you find in history that was kind of the catalyst that made it so that I mean, half of the U.S. thinks that a fetus is a fetus, and you can just kill it off, and that's no big deal. That it's a woman's
Hmm.
choice to do that. What did you find in history?
Well, I found that the the people that were instrumental in in advancing the abortion movement were actually men. I knew that I had this vague understanding that feminism in the 60s and 70s had something to do with it, but I didn't realize that behind that were two men behind the feminism movement during that time, adopting abortion as one of their policies for women's rights. Behind that was two men that were really instigating and infiltrating their ideology.
I find that
And
ironic that in the movement of feminism, it's men telling women what to fight for.
mhm, mhm,
When they're sitting there saying, "Well, we're equal to you. Why are they following a man's guidance
right,
if we believe that we know what
right.
we need?"
And that's the fundamental argument for pro-life feminists today is why do, why do we um why do we tell women that they need to have abortion in order to feel equal or to have the same opportunities as men in our culture, in our society? It's and women don't choose abortion because they want to; they choose because they're desperate. And so it's not an empowering option for them to say that they have to murder their unborn son or daughter in order to be okay or be okay in society, to succeed, to not look, to even not be looked down upon. And so when I discovered just the roots of where pro-choice really came from in American society, I was blown away. So I wanted people to hear that story. One of those men who influenced the feminists was Bernard Nathanson, who was he was one of the biggest abortionists in the Western world. He committed thousands and thousands of abortions in New York City. And he was one of the abortion advocates. He was pushing it legally as well.
Of
They were
course. Of
lobbying
course.
for abortion.
So
And
lining his pockets with the feminist movement, pushing for
yes,
something so that he could just be more successful.
hmm
How
and the
shady and dirty.
documentary talks about how he became pro-life when he saw an ultrasound during an abortion procedure. That changed everything for him. And then he spent the rest of his life advocating for life and trying to educate the population, the public, for to end abortion.
So Bernard Nathanson is in your documentary. Is that what you said? And he's the man that was leading up.
Yeah, we tell his story. He's now deceased, but he his I wanted to showcase his a little bit of his story to show that even the hardest hearts, even the most um, just deceived minds, so to speak, even the most blinded, the people we see that are so blind, that are committing atrocity, the abortionists, even those people are not without hope. Like God can really do anything. God can change any heart and mind if He wants to.
Wow. So the man leading the feminist movement, encouraging women to have abortions, turned pro life. I can't wait to see. Do you show the ultrasound that he saw that changed his mind?
We do.
You probably didn't have
He
access to
actually
that.
made yeah, he made a documentary in 1985 or 84 um, called The Silent Scream, and we show clips of that documentary. He's showing it on this TV, what takes place.
So now that you've said that, his name didn't ring a bell, but the silent scream does. And
Mm,
I looked online and I saw a lot of critics saying that scientifically, the ultrasound that he saw, the actions that he saw, couldn't happen. So they're still fighting this. They're still fighting,
hmm.
a doctor that said, "I've done this my whole life. I believe in it my whole life, but now I'm telling you what I saw." And they're trying to say, "Well, you don't, dear doctor, you don't know as much science as we do. It's impossible for you to see that." I mean, it feels like they'll just stop at nothing for this, quote unquote right.
Hmm.
So
Right.
terrifying.
Well, cognitive bias is so strong, and we can really color. We can. It's just. It's. It's not reality. Um, is not what they're searching for. They're really looking at reality through their perspective. And if that perspective is bias, is colored with is colored with political or moral bias, then of course you're going to find any reason to discredit or discount. But we know that a baby in that stage of in pregnancy it has heartbeat, it has nerve endings, it moves. So that's been proven. Abby Johnson talks about her story of seeing an ultrasound during an abortion procedure, and seeing that the baby was fighting for his life. So I'm not sure what they say about the silent scream. I know that there's like people saying that, oh, it must have been CGI or some sort of special effects. But it was 1984, and it was a very basic documentary. So I really doubt that they were trying to deceive anybody.
Yeah. And what would be the purpose by turning
Right.
around and saying, I no longer believe in abortion? He basically put himself out of a job. So,
Right. Right.
wow.
It's okay to want babies to be born.
Yeah. Yeah. How controversial
Like,
of you.
there's no
How dare
evil
you.
agenda in that. And we do have the science on our side, because life begins at the moment of conception. Everyone started at that point.
Because uninterrupted, and I feel like there's so many arguments for this. Uninterrupted, what would become is what that is. And if you
If
don't
you do
mess
nothing,
with it, yes,
if you do
it will
nothing,
become a
that
baby.
baby will become a baby. That baby will be born and come into the world. So
I very much agree. So when does the movie come out on DVD? Is it still being released on DVD?
yeah, you can go to matteroflife.org to go on streaming. There's 2 platforms you could watch on streaming right now, and it is coming to DVD soon. I don't have a specific date, but it is coming soon.
So you're saying that I could have watched this movie already?
Yeah, it's
Darn it.
available now on Revelation Media or Salem Now.
Okay. I'm going to get a glass of red wine and a box of tissues.
Yes.
And where can people find you to support you and to support your movement and your activism and all that?
Yeah, the best place to go is matteroflife.org. They can learn more. They can donate. It's a 501c3 that helps us really keep spreading the word and getting the film out there to inform, especially young people, in that vulnerable stage of their life.
Okay, time for cheers time, Tracy. You ready?
Okay, ready?
Cheers to?
Cheers to, and I have my water mug that says "Fear God, not Gov" from
Love
Turning
it.
Point USA.
Oh, yay, love it.
And I just want to cheers to God Almighty, because without him, we wouldn't have life. And he is really the author, not only of life, but our intrinsic value as human beings. And, he created us as creative creatures that need liberty. And it's for liberty we are fighting. And so we are liberating unborn children from death and giving born children their rights endowed by their creator. So cheers to God. He is why we fight for life. It's a good
Best
fight.
cheers ever. Thank you. Love your cup, by the way.
Thanks.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on with me. I appreciate it, Tracy, and thank you for everything you're doing for the pro-life movement.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Patriot Barbie podcast. Follow me on Truth Social at The Patriot Barbie and Instagram at the.patriot.barbie. Subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with your friends. You can find this show, my book Targeted, and my apparel line on www.patriotbarbie.com. God bless America, and God bless you.
It's It's Dylan's KC Barbecue at 4 Valley locations. Our sports bar in Arrowhead is packed with TVs for the ultimate sports fan. Our Wildlife World Zoo location will have you on the edge of your seat, dining right next to our 60,000-gallon shark tank. Dylan's Bayou at Pleasant Harbor has never-ending sunsets, beautiful people, and live music every weekend. And our newest location, Western Trails Ranch, is 12 acres of rodeo fun and live outdoor concerts for the entire family. It's Dylan's KC Barbecue, where we're elite, unique, and memorable.